sick old man, a lifetime collection of plastic bricks, and a missing parakeet named Tattle. But what have those three in common? I started with the Gorman couple, went to Key McAllister, saw a lot of reckless Ben videos, heard something about a missing parakeet, and a lot of lawsuits. And you see, it's complicated. But I have good news for you. I will unravel the entire story and I will tell you everything that's important in this case. Sources are linked down below. For over 20 years, Ed Mansell and his son Brian built what became one of the most legendary and biggest LEGO Star Wars collections in the world. This wasn't just a hobby, it was the college fund for his grandchildren and his ultimate safety net. But today, Ed is severely ill, and the 200,000 collection is gone. Stolen, not by masked bandits, but allegedly by a prominent corporate franchise. And right in the middle of this chaos, a beloved pet was lost. Let's go in. To understand this, we need to know how it all started. Because of his worsening health, Ed decided it was time to sell the collection, and he trusted his son Brian to handle it. But you don't just sell a world-class collection on your own. Brian needed professional help. So he turned to Bricks Minifigs, a massive franchise system specialized entirely in buying, selling and reselling LEGO. Brian spoke to the owners of the local store in Kaiser, Oregon, a couple known as the Gormans. Together they made a consignment deal, and at first everyone was ecstatic. The sets were promoted on social media on the page of the Salem store. For a while the deal worked perfectly. The Gormans sold the sets, kept a small percentage as their consignment fee, and passed the rest of the money directly to Brian to fund his father's medical care. And if you were in the store back then, you could always hear a cheerful parakeet in the background. But everything changed when the Gormans made a life decision. They wanted to sell the store and move to a foreign country, but see for yourself.
We decided to move overseas because of my work. I'm a publisher at a small press, not a pipe publishing, and we thought we might need to be publishing from outside the US for political reasons.
When we approached BAM about selling the store, they pretended to be open to the idea.
The corporate held a meeting with two of their existing franchisees, Joshua Johnson and Brandon Best. And these two men decided to take over the store. This wasn't a standard 2 weeks notice. They held a meeting, informed the Gormans the very next day that they were buying the store, and by exact that evening they demanded the keys. Look at this ring camera footage. There's Brandon Best demanding the keys. And look closely at the background. You can literally see Ed and Brian's LEGO sets sitting on the shelves. The takeover of the new owners happened so fast and so aggressively that Crystal Gorman ran out of space in her car. She couldn't fit Tattle into her car. But since she fully expected to return the very next morning to retrieve the rest of her personal inventory, including Brian's Legos, she left the bird behind for the night. All of this went down in November 24, or at least the takeover part. Later, Bricks and Minifigs stated they closed the store so quickly because the Gormans were doing a consignment agreement which is against the franchise agreement. Crystal Gorman was able to show that in her franchise agreement, it's clearly allowed to do consignments. The new owners, Johnson and Best, locked the doors and kept everything inside. And even though Brian Mansell was still legally the rightful owner of every single LEGO brick until the moment it was sold, he was completely cut off. The new owner claimed the inventory of the store is now their inventory.
Are you the owner of the Bricks and Minifigs store?
Yeah, why? What you got?
So basically, I just wanted to get some of the Legos back that you guys still have. I think I'm looking for the clone turbo tank.
Why do you think you would be entitled to our inventory?
And that's around the time when Reckless Ben enters the stage. Brian was backed into a corner. His father's condition was worsening every day, and he begged the new owners to return the Legos, but their response, which they also delivered to the Gormans, was dismissive.
Bricks and Minifigs knows that Brian and his dad don't have nearly enough resources to sue a company as big as Bricks and Minifigs.
He's like, we're gonna keep these. You're gonna walk away from this. You're not coming back. And if you choose to sue us, we will drag this out in court till it is well past what this collection is worth.
At first, Ben tried the diplomatic route. He walked into the Salem store and kindly asked for the collection back. But the store manager, Amanda, wasn't interested in a peaceful solution.
My friend said that you guys have some of his Legos, I think, and he told me to come here and see if I could pick them up.
Who's your friend?
I think they're Brian's Legos. It's like a big Star Wars collection set, I think.
You could go ahead and leave now.
She immediately called the police and had Ben cited for trespassing. The police treated the matter as a civil dispute and declined to investigate. They didn't care that corporate franchise owners had allegedly stolen $200,000 from a dying man.
Finally get the Legos back.
Basically, we have, I think it's like $200,000 worth of Lego sets.
Yes.
That we just have them in the store and we just like to pick them up, I guess, because they were going to sell it for us, but I guess they're not selling it for us anymore.
But does it sound like they want you here, right? So they
Well, but they have our sets though, yeah.
I understand that. Right here, the factor is that they don't want you, they're a private owned store, and they don't want you on the front. Okay.
But I don't want them to keep the Lego sets though.
To them, this wasn't a criminal matter, it was a civil dispute. They told Ben that if the story was true, Brian had to sue them, but the police would not investigate. Ben even called one of the co-owners, Joshua Johnson, directly on the phone to demand the family's property back. But Johnson didn't back down. Instead, he threatened Ben.
In fact, he said if I do sue him, he's gonna tell the world that I'm the one that stole the Legos.
Think you can f*** yourself.
Dang.
You stole them, bitch.
I stole the Legos?
Yeah, you're a fucking thief.
Dang.
Okay?
Realizing the police would never help as long as this was labeled a civil matter, Ben decided to find a legal edge. He needed to manipulate the situation so that Bricks and Minifigs would commit a clear, undeniable criminal offense, forcing the police to react. He came up with a brilliant plan. To fight fire with fire, Ben decided to hold a lottery for one of the Star Wars sets. But in Oregon, running a private lottery is highly illegal, unless you are a registered non-profit or religious organization. Luckily, from one of his previous videos, Ben actually owned his own legally recognized religion. Using his church, he held a perfectly legal raffle for one of the sets.
Finally, it was time to pick our winner. This family legally won this prize, so now if Bricks and Minifigs doesn't give it to them, they're committing a criminal crime, which could land them in jail.
Armed with an Oregon law book, Ben and a friend stood right outside the store. The plan was simple. Claim the raffled prize for the rightful winner. If the store refused to hand over a prize from a legally sanctioned lottery, it would instantly cross the line from a civil dispute to a criminal theft. The police would legally have to intervene. But when they arrived, history repeated itself. Amanda called the cops again, and when the police arrived, Ben pulled out the law book, pushing the officers onto the defensive. But even though Ben argued that Oregon law supported his position, the police ultimately sided with the franchise. They told Ben,
"You don't have authority to give out a prize. We're just going to get to the point, then we're not going to have these conversations. We're just going to put you in handcuffs, take you. Are we all on the same page?"
It was time for a new brainstorm. Ben and Brian decided to take BAM to a small claims court. But there was a massive legal hurdle. In Oregon, you cannot sue for more than $10,000 in small claims court. So they came up with a loophole. Brian legally sold the Lego collection to Ben's team in 10 separate portions. The contracts were covered and seen by a notary public.
It's official, we have a public notary approving it. Notary public. We have a notary public approving it.
This allowed 10 different people simultaneously sue BAM for $10,000 each. Ben's ultimate hope was that Bricks and Minifigs Corporate wouldn't bother to show up for the smaller claims trial. And they didn't. Because of that, Ben and Brian wanted to file for a default judgment. At least that was the plan. Shortly before the default judgment process could move forward, the Salem store was shut down. It became a ghost store, meaning they couldn't press the charges against the local franchise entity anymore.
Well, I think now it's time to go all the way back to Bricks and Minifigs and collect our money. And I got a cute little piggy bank here that they can put the money in.
I couldn't believe it. Literally 1 day after we file a motion for default judgment, they permanently closed down the store.
In reaction to that hopeless situation, Ben decided to start a GoFundMe to get Brian his money back. But Ben wasn't done. If they couldn't sue the franchise, they would sue the owners on a personal level. Since the Oregon law required them to have a good faith conversation to try and settle the matter before a personal lawsuit, and Ben was blocked on phone by Johnson and Best, they had to fly to their homes in Utah. But their first stop was the Bricks and Minifigs corporate headquarters to speak directly to the CEO, Ammon McNabb. But the corporate shielding was up. Ben was thrown out of the building and threatened with the police.
You can leave. If you come back here, we will call the cops. If you don't leave right now, I will call the cops.
It was time to drive directly to Joshua Johnson's private residence. Since Joshua's house was nearby, Ben decided to get that legally required good faith conversation in person. When they arrived, Johnson was outside and talking on his phone. Not wanting to escalate things, Ben and his team decided to wait. It turns out Joshua Johnson already called the police. The police arrived and the group decided to leave. With the police on their heels, Ben's team did everything to follow the law perfectly, but the police pulled them over anyway, claiming they rolled through a stop sign. In the end, Ben was told Josh Johnson wants you trespassed and you will be arrested if you enter his property.
Everybody today is being trespassed from that property.
Okay.
The very next day, the police stopped Ben and his team again. Out of nowhere, the police claimed they had a probable cause to search the car for heroin.
The police apparently got a call that we had heroin on us.
This officer is going to conduct the search of your person because there are illegal substances in the vehicle. Really? So he's going to do that. I'm going to put this away and then...
For 2 hours, the police searched the car. They found absolutely nothing.
After 2 hours of searching the car, obviously they found no drugs.
So he didn't find anything.
Ben refused to back down. Since they had now tried and failed to have a peaceful conversation with Johnson, and after trying the same with Brandon Best, who just stood there like a statue, refusing to speak a single word, Ben knew they couldn't step foot on their property again without getting arrested. But since they tried to have a good faith conversation, they were able to file a lawsuit in Oregon, so just the papers had to be delivered to the Bricks and Minifigs franchisees. So he hired a neutral process server, a woman from the local community, to legally deliver the lawsuit paperwork. Joshua Johnson called the police multiple times, claiming Ben was trespassing on his private property, even though he and the process server were sitting in a car on a public road. The police showed up multiple times. The first 2 times they realized Ben wasn't breaking any laws and they left. By the third call, the narrative shifted. The officer offered to take the legal papers and serve them to Johnson himself.
You okay if I give these papers to him?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, hang tight.
Johnson told the officer, "I don't want these papers." The cop actually listened to the franchise owner, walked back outside and handed the lawsuit back to Ben, claiming the documents were forged because they didn't have a judge's name on them.
He does not want the paper. So
He's not want the papers?
here's that back for you.
Okay.
He wanted you trespassed. Okay, so don't
But
come back.
she never even went on the property though.
Yeah, so who went on the property?
None of us did.
By the 4th police call, the officers finally called Oregon authorities and verified the truth. The papers were 100% real.
Yeah, looks like a real small claims case in our court.
Okay, so the defendant needs to be served with papers before the case will, I guess, start.
Yes.
And in the end, Ben really got arrested.
Am I being arrested?
You're under arrest right now for stalking.
Really? This is my first time ever being arrested.
Afterwards, he came free on bail. But the next day, Ben and his friends got a visit from American Fork Police Department in their Airbnb. Ben had his phone in his hand, recording, but he didn't do any fast movements. The moment an officer saw the camera, they lunged. According to Reckless Ben, they dislocated his shoulder while arresting him. When the team asked for the probable cause for this, the officer gave an answer that connects several parts of this case. He didn't say stalking, he didn't say trespassing, no. The officer looked at them and said, "We are searching for missing Legos." Let that sink in. Remember the previous call from Johnson and Reckless Ben?
I stole the Legos?
Yeah, you're fucking thief.
Dang.
Officially, the arrest papers named stalking as the cause for the arrest. According to Reckless Ben's video, there was also the GoFundMe page in question.
So creating the GoFundMe was illegal?
When I asked the detective how creating a GoFundMe was probable cause to send me to jail, this was his response.
A lot of this stuff you may have to just get an attorney and fight it in the criminal side of court.
A deeper look into the local power structure revealed a staggering connection. A web of shared backgrounds that connects several people involved in this case. Through public records and research, I discovered that the chief of police in American Fork, Cameron Paul, multiple responding officers, the Bricks Minifigs corporate official Key McAllister, who was on the phone at the initial store takeover, co-owners Brandon Best and Joshua Johnson, Bricks Minifigs CEO Eamon McNabb and his brother all share the same roots. They are part of the local Mormon community. There's no evidence that these connections influenced official decisions, but critics on the police response have pointed to these overlapping social networks. Now, to be absolutely clear, there's no proof for corruption or an illegal conspiracy here. Sharing a faith or a community with someone is clearly not a crime. Ben was arrested over this without any bail, and he spent around 12 hours in jail. After a judge saw the case, he was free to leave for a bail of around $2,500. So, what's today's situation? A sick old man, a legendary collection, and a missing parakeet. Let's look at the latest updates on the missing pieces of this puzzle and see where everyone stands right now. First things first, I owe you the explanation what is known of Tattle. So, he was part of the inventory never returned to the owners. I had personal contact with Crystal Gorman, but she could only tell me that she has no idea. On the other hand, Bricks Minifigs CEO Eamon McNabb claims they surrendered the bird into an animal shelter. He claims that Crystal Gorman just said, "It's yours now." And also, he admits that the bird was taken over.
No, actually, I know about the bird that was in the store. And the incoming individual said, "Hey, don't forget your bird." And she says, "Your problem now." That was the answer. However, the bird was taken to a no-kill shelter, and hopefully it's been now rehomed.
The last known piece of information is of the video of Coffee Cellar with the empty cage. So there's no definitive proof for either side. During the last days, Ben's videos went viral, and the formal lawsuit was filed. Bricks Minifigs released a statement that they terminated the franchise contract with Josh Johnson and Brandon Best, and are open for a constructive meeting with Brian to figure out which Legos are his and how much they owe. BAM claims Crystal Gorman was not upfront with them, entered directly into an unauthorized consignment agreement and never made that public for the next owners. The franchise agreement, published by the Gormans, show otherwise and explicitly shows that they were allowed to do consignment deals. The American Fork Police Department released a statement from their chief, Cameron Paul. I linked it down below if you want to make a deep dive into it. Bricks Minifigs CEO and COO Eamon and Matthew McNabb took part in a live podcast on the YouTube channel ACOP. They tried there to tell their side of the story. Reckless Ben had a couple of very specific questions he shared with ACOP, which were asked directly to the Bricks Minifigs official. He chose not to answer several of the specific questions submitted. In the meantime, the GoFundMe page for Brian, or better, Ed Mansell's LEGO Star Wars collection skyrocketed and reached above $400,000 as of June 6, 26. Money which will go directly from Ben to Brian. So what do you think about this case? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. if there are any major updates in this saga, I will cover them in an extra video. So be sure to sub the channel. The research for these cases costs a lot of time. And if you want to support me, consider joining my Patreon. Link down below. See you in the next one.